All right, we are back with another episode here of the Fitz and Franson Show. I'm Fitz. That's
Yeah,
Franson.
I'm Franson.
All right, yeah. So always a pleasure to get another opportunity to talk with you here, Mr. Franson, and share some ideas and conversation with you, buddy. So
Yeah.
we've had a couple of good ones over the last several weeks here, and looking forward to another good one. So our uh, our topic today is going to be a little bit about mindset, right? So we've been talking with some different opportunities here with different leaders or contributors in the networks and businesses that we work with, and it's been a pretty common theme over the last week or week and a half here. Would you say?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think week and a half might be an understatement. I think it's a common theme in almost every conversation we have, and there's certainly positive mindsets and negative and somewhere in between in every conversation we have. And it's funny how most of these things that we're working on, whether it's system changes or process changes, the root cause or the root thing that needs to change in them tie back to a foundational change in how we think or act or believe in what is possible or what could be possible in those changes. So, and one of the things I love about working with you, Jay, is that that's kind of what your background is in, and what your foundation is in here, and it's one of my biggest passions and one of my biggest beliefs is that there's not really anything that's impossible if you believe that you can go out and get it done, right? So, um, so one of the things I kind of want to start with, Jay, here today is when you're working in your coaching life, right, and you're talking with somebody that's in that world for you, when you start to kind of unpack and you start to look at maybe a roadblock for somebody in their world, maybe professionally, personally, or anything along those lines, what would you say is like uh, a leading indicator or a cue or something along your path in that discovery process for you that you go, hey, do you believe that this is a problem, or do you believe that this is a hurdle that you can overcome? Is there anything in that conversation that you have that is a trigger for you?
Yeah, a lot of times you're having the conversation with them, and through your own experience, you will go, "Oh, it doesn't have to be that way," and you can see the path through for them, and it's pretty plain. And all you do is just challenge them. And one of the phrases I use is, "What if it isn't?" They say, "Oh, I'm stuck on this, and these are the problems, and the mountain is insurmountable." And I say, "What if it isn't?" And you can tell that there's a mindset issue that's subconscious enough that they don't even know that there's another path. And so that's a great indicator. Hey, I'm stuck. Well, what if you weren't stuck? What do you mean? Like, are they curious enough to look for another way out? And if they are, then you start digging into, well, what's the current thought process that you're allowing to hold you in this position you're in?
It's it's a funny it's a funny thing, right? Because it's such a simple, basic question that anybody could ask themselves, right? So why don't they?
Yeah.
Like, why don't
Yeah, they don't because we don't like um objectively observe ourselves. We live our lives from the perspective of this is truth because it's my truth. It's one of those like catchy phrases right now. I'm just living my truth.
right?
It's like, yeah, but man, if your truth is screwed up, find another truth. And so getting them to increase in self-awareness to go, oh, I can now observe myself thinking that way. What if I thought a different way? What would that look like?
Yeah. How often do you find, I'm curious, and maybe I'm looking for some confirmation bias on the people that I work with too here. So it's the leading question, so to speak, right? How often do you find that um, people are where they want to be, right? So their uh, speed bump or their the wall of resistance that they're beating against, so to speak, is put in place because they put it there, right? And they can't see around it because they refuse to take the step to the side themselves and see it. They enjoy the place that they're at, so to speak, whether they want to admit that or not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a ton of them. Yeah, they'll tell you they want to be, I want to run a $20 million company, but I can't because, and they tell me this story that has them stuck. And if you actually challenge them, they're actually afraid that they couldn't run the $20 million company. The fear of success is a real thing. And I coached a pastor for a couple of years, and anytime I would challenge him on the size of his church, because, religion is a weird thing to talk about, but you want people to value the community you create at church. And so it should be evidenced by the number of people that come. I have created a community that people want to be a part of. And he was, it was a modest community. About 100 people would show up on Sundays. And, he would just tell me his dreams of preaching to thousands of people. And I said, well, then why aren't you? And he gave me a couple of reasons that seemed feasible. It's not in the church budget or whatever, like, we could overcome those. And I kept pressing him saying, well, those all have solutions. And finally he goes, Jay, if I'm being really honest, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to pastor a church that big.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of people, in business and in personal life, whatever, you create a structure that feels safe enough that you can manage it. And you can have great aspirations, but if you don't have a story in your head that says you're the person that can do that, you're never going to build opportunities in front of you to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
I say for myself, I have my own story. I have an income amount that I want to make. It is way more than I make right now. And I don't tell very many people what the number is because it feels silly, and I'm not financially driven. So it even in my own brain tells me you're being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to learn to tell the story that I'm not being selfish. I'm motivated to create the value that's worth the dollars that someone would pay me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? It's there's this exposure that happens to you where you get kind of put out there when you go for it, right? And failure is a possibility. But we have a friend and a colleague that we work with where failure is an option is a phrase that he uses a lot. There's a real power in that statement, because failure is an option, success is inevitable as well too, right? And I think that's a thing that that gets missed a lot, right? In that comfortableness, so to speak, for people that get comfortable where they are, right? And it's a weird thing, right? And we work with a lot of people in goal setting, and like, I want to get better. Great. I want to run a bigger business. I want to run a bigger church or bigger whatever, right? One of the questions I know both you and I will ask, okay, well, what does that mean? Right? Like, that's a great concept, but that's not attainable. Concepts aren't attainable. Defined things are. Define it for me, right? So like, I sit down with a sales rep, or I sit down with a sales manager, or I sit down with a business owner. You want to run a more successful business. You want to make more money. What is more money, right? More money could be $1 or it could be $1 billion. There is a wide range there. Tell me specifically what it is. The challenge people have with that is the second I say it, I'm now out in the open and very exposed, right? And that's a very uncomfortable thing for people to do to themselves, because what if I fail in that exposure, right? And that's a challenging thing. So, how do you get people past that mindset of like, I don't want to fail and I don't want to be seen as a failure? Like, how do you coach people past that?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the books that I have people read is by Jim Lower. It's called The Power of Story. And what I tell everybody is the first thing you need to do when you see when a blind spot is brought into the light when a story that's not helpful is revealed, is there's no judgment. There's just simply observation. And so there's a lot of times where my homework for my clients is this week, just notice it. It might be a client that talks themselves down, and they're like, I really want to get, better customers in whatever, lane they're in. And they're like, but each time it comes to the point of selling myself, I talk myself down. I'm like, great observation. This week, when you talk to potential clients, just notice it. Because now they start to gain a bigger sense of awareness, and they start to be able to recognize, what if it wasn't? Right? And I think a big step in that is, it's funny, we, as coaches, consultants, as business partners, as friends, sometimes you can lend them your courage, right? And so there's a lot of times in coaching where I will give them permission to do something that I have no right to give them permission to do. It's their life. I have no right to say, you better not do that or else.
Yeah.
But I will come in with a certain measure of authority, just simply for their own safety and peace of mind. And I will say something to the effect of, I don't want you to be successful this week. I want you to just notice. And it sets their mind at ease so that they can then, with some love, some self-love, go, oh yeah, I did that thing again. And so that's the beginning, is let's actually name it what it is. And I use a model that came from another coach. It's called the CTFAR model. And it's, if you guys could picture it, and we'll put the image up on the screen to watch later, but circumstance is the C. Something happens, good or bad, doesn't matter, just happens. And then we have a thought about it. That circumstance produces a thought. In baseball, I'm not a baseball player, you are. Circumstance, you're at bat, right? You have a thought. The thought is, I'm going to hit a home run, right? You're feeling excitement, right? And oftentimes, but not all the time, because you don't hit a home run every time. But if your thought and your feeling are in alignment with what you want, the possibility of you hitting a home run goes way up, right? And so your action, you're going to swing for the fences, right? Like, whatever the strategy is in baseball. And so there's action or inaction there, and then it's followed by the outcome. And that outcome is what's going to reinforce the thought. And so if you can picture it, there's circumstance, thought, feeling, action or inaction, which are both action. And then the result or the outcome. And that result will reinforce the thoughts. But a lot of people actually get the feelings and the thoughts mixed up, and they go, a circumstance happens, so I feel scared, or I feel excited, or I feel something. And it's because we have an unconscious story that's being told that our brain actually bypasses. Our brain has told the story or had the thought so many times that it skips the thought and goes right to the feeling. Mm-hmm. And they say that statistically, more people are afraid of public speaking than afraid of death. Right. Right. And the only reason that's true is they have a thought that produces the feeling of fear and anxiety. And that thought is, what if people don't like me?
Yeah.
What if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I don't know what to say? What if? And that gets ingrained in a lot of cases. That happens in childhood. Middle schoolers are very cruel human beings. And you might have tried to stand up in front of the class in middle school, and you had 29 of your peers tell you were an idiot and you should shut up and sit down. Right. And that story created a thought that then built behind you. And I don't like public speaking, but I'm kind of stubborn like that, where I'm like, wow, if I feel like I shouldn't do it, I should probably do it. And so I actually speak at my church. I've spoken at my kids' youth group, and pretty awkward to be the dad of some of the kids in there. I
Sure.
don't say it right. I'm not smooth
No.
with my words. But I sit there and I go, what is the worst that could happen?
Right.
Some of the kids don't like you. You know, a lot of us in business, the bigger you get in the public's eye, the more people won't like you.
Mm-hmm.
But statistically, it's actually the same percentage, like the whole time.
Right.
If you have 10 people that know you, 5 probably don't like you that much.
Yep.
If you have 100 people that know you, probably 50 don't like you that much, or at least are disinterested. And so you start to recognize this model and go, well, what are the thoughts I'm having? And now feelings change. You know, we've said it in previous shows, Matt, you are where your attention is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me put my attention towards success. Alex Hormozy says, the most powerful people are people that can be in a good mood for no reason.
Yeah.
And I love that. What he's saying is your thoughts control your feelings. And just simply for the very fact that you exist, you're in a good mood. Those people become unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful mindset. I went through, kind of sharing two things, right? You mentioned the public speaking thing, and I will never forget. I learned a lot from my old man. I shared at one point, I think, in our conversations that the first ever in-home sales call I went on was when I was 12 years old with my dad. Little did I know now, fast forward into an adulthood, it's the best, closing strategy ever. It's like, look at the size of that kid. He's got to eat, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I never forget, I had to give uh, a speech at school, right, in front of the whole school. I think I was probably 10 or 11 years old. I wasn't very old at all. And I was I was sweating bullets, right? And best advice I got, probably in anything that I've ever done was in that moment from him. And he said, look, you can't mess up. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, nobody knows what you're going to say. So
Yeah.
how could you mess this up?
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's great.
that's a good point. He goes, yeah, don't go back and say the thing you forgot to say. Then they'll know you messed up. And I was like, that's genius, right? And now, please, everybody, don't share with my dad that I called him a genius, okay? But that was like, again, I don't know why that stuck with me. And now to this day, like, I don't really get nervous going on stage to talk to, groups of people or anything along those lines, because I can't mess up. And there's a reason they asked me to talk, right? They want to hear what I have to say. And not everybody's going to like what I have to say, but that's okay, right? Because it's not for everybody, and not everybody's going to take the advice or the content the way it needs to be taken. But it's not for everybody, right? The people that are leaning in, that's who is for me, and I am for them, kind of thing. And that's the audience kind of thing. So, but you mentioned the Hormozy, mindset thing there. And one of the things that I was fortunate enough in my career with a company I was with at one point, we went through some orange frog training. And I don't know if you've ever been exposed to something like that, but man, it was really powerful. Our vice president at the time got exposed to it and decided it was a great thing for the whole company to go through. And truth be told, I think it was one of those things that when we had it exposed to us, it was kind of one of those, all right, this is one of those like corporate things we all got to do and check the box and sign up for. And we're going to have, a luncheon. And like when he shows up, we got to pretend like we read the book. And, the roll of the eyes happened pretty hard. But, after kind of getting into it, and it's a fable about a, frog in a swamp that is born with, orange skin, which is obviously he stands out. And at first he's, woe is me, I'm so different, right? But he changes his mindset, and it's like, well, but look at how special I am. Look at how cool this is. And I'm paraphrasing the heck out of this at this point. But, and when he shared like the impact that it had on him and his family, it really resonated with me. He had a couple of teenage daughters, and he talked about the war zone that his house was before he had gotten into this, training at this point. And, but basically the messaging was like, you choose how your day goes, right? You choose happiness is what the message of the story is. Like, you choose your mood, you choose your emotion. And that's very simplistic. There are things in the outside world that have impact on that. There's no doubt about that. But again, you also choose the level of impacts that some of those things have. And he shared this story that, like, he met his daughters at the bottom of the stairs each morning. And like, if it was starting off bad, he would send them back upstairs and say like, hey, make a better choice on how the day is going to go and go back upstairs and come back down with a better attitude. I am sure that didn't go well the first couple of times he said that to his teenage daughters, but apparently it went much better as he kept doing it, kind of thing. So, and I was sharing with you earlier, so I have this thing with my now 7-year-old son, and every day now when he leaves the house, he gives his mom a hug and a kiss, and he looks at his mom in the eyes. He says, "Kick today's butt, Mom." And she says it back to him. And then I drop him off at school. It's like one of the things that I'm very blessed with what I do for work, that I get to drive him to school every day. And before he gets out, he gives me a fist bump. He says, "Kick today's butt, Dad." And I say it back to him, right? So it's about, hey, look, we own the day. The day doesn't own us, kind of thing. And it's a really empowering thing to know that you have control over what it is that you're going to accomplish today, right? And is every day a win? No, not every day is a win, but I'm sure not going to lose because I didn't go after it today, so to speak, right? And like, man, oh man, like if I teach him anything in life, like that's the number one thing I want him to learn. Because again, going back to like the conversations we have, in the clients and the people that we work with, if I leave them with nothing else, I want to leave them with like, you are in total control of your destiny, right? Like you can make this business, this organization, your success, whatever you want to make it, right? That's the beautiful thing about the world that we work in. Like this isn't rocket science. I constantly say like, it's the smartest group of high school dropouts we've ever been around, right? Like it's a bunch of guys that like didn't want to sit in class, in school, and decided they were going to go swing hammers and drive nails in wood for a living, and turned it into a crazy successful business. Anybody can do this if they put their mind to it, which is really cool. So sorry, I went on a rant there. So
yeah. Well, and it's interesting too that a lot of them get into the business because they're doers. They want to be busy. They want to be doing things, and a lot of them are achievement driven. And you and I have talked about this before too. An episode or two back, where businesses start out where the owner can do the work, and so he says, "I can start a business." Then it's sales and marketing, which you and I talk about if we have to. But then the fun part is it becomes about the people. Yeah, have a grow great organization. It's about the people, and most of our customers have enough wisdom to recognize that their businesses can only grow as much as they're able to grow as the owner. And the owner is inevitably the bottleneck of the businesses. At one point or another, once the owner learns more about themselves and they learn what parts to get out of the way and what parts to lean in hard and really leverage their own strengths, then sky's the limit for what they can do.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's funny. In our last episode, we had the fortune to have Justin on with us, and he's an owner who is very committed to not being stagnant, right? And he is, by all accounts, very successful with what he's doing already. And I can't even count the number of dealers that would just sit tight and let the world pass them by, and a year or two down the road would be on the phone with you or I going, "I don't know how to get out of this rut that I'm in." Right? Is that fair to say? Right? And you and I would be sitting there talking to them going like, "Well, you got to do X, Y, or Z." And they would be telling us, "Well, we can't because this is how we've always done it." And to have just that like that forward thinking mindset of we need to continually improve and get better is just such a important thing. I shared a story with you and some of our other colleagues, I think on our very first meeting when I used to coach, when I had a lot less gray hair in this beard. We used to run these camps, and they were, kind of like they were like the best high school kids in the area. And we would start the sessions, and we would put up a video, and it was it was side by side video of two individuals taking batting practice. Okay. One of them was a video of a gentleman taking batting practice at PNC Park, where the Pittsburgh Pirates play, at the All-Star game. And the other was this kid on a dirt field with a chain link fence behind him. Nobody else is around. And we would ask the camp, it's 20, 30 kids in a camp. We'd say, okay, who are these guys? And without hesitation, every one of them would go, that's David Wright, right? And for those of you that aren't familiar, David Wright is one of the best third basemen to ever play the game. And at that time, he was like one of the best players in baseball. And like they knew it right away. And he had an unmistakable stance and swing. And I'm a Virginia boy, so like he's got a soft spot in my heart because he's from Virginia too. So and just all around, by all accounts, good guy. And I said, okay, great. Yeah, you nailed that. That's that guy. And he said, okay, who's the other guy? And we would sit there in like utter silence for like what felt like 45 minutes, but it was probably like a good, 2 minutes. And the kids, and I'd be like, you can come closer. And like, they would get like inches from this big TV screen that we had. And not one person would ever be able to name it. And I'd be like, do you give up? And like, yeah, who is it? That's David Wright.
Mhm.
What? Because the swings look entirely different. And it's about, if I had to guess right, remember now at this point, they're probably about like 6 years, 7 years apart or so, maybe even longer than that. So I said, that's David Wright too. That's David Wright about a week after he was drafted number 1 by the New York Mets. What do you notice? And they're like, man, he looks so different. His swing is different. Like, yeah. So what does that tell you? In order to become the David Wright that's taking BP, batting practice, at the All-Star game, he had to change. How crazy is that, though? He was just told a week before this video was taken that he was the best available player in the world. Not like in the state of Virginia, in all of the world. College, high school, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, you name it, the best available player in the world. They paid him $1 million to sign a sheet of paper because they wanted him so bad. And then he showed up to camp and they were like, hey, we love everything about you, but you need to change all of it.
Yep.
And what did he do? He said, okay. And he went to work and he changed all of it. And how many people don't do that and never get to be in the second video? Like, that's what changes, or that's what the difference is between Hall of Famers and guys that you never heard of, right? And that doesn't change from like professional sports to business, right? Like that's the craziest part about it is that's what I love about sports. I think is it's so relatable to business and life and all of those lessons that I learned playing, growing up, all of those things. Like they're just so relatable to what we do, how we coach people today in the business world. And we work with business owners today that don't make $1 million in 10 years, right? That won't change. And there's a guy that made $1 million in not even 3 seconds signing a sheet of paper that changed everything about what he was doing for signing that sheet of paper. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Again, sorry for another rant.
Yeah, no, this is good stuff. It's exactly what we wanted to talk about. The network that we get to support, and we really are honored to support these guys, is a lot of them have service areas that are ripe for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be there to encourage them and help them see what they might not be seeing, and help them overcome some of their own stories that might not be productive or helpful. Yeah, there's a saying that there's a motto called be, do, have. First, you have to be the person that like mindset stuff, to then do the things necessary to have what you want. And in most cases, that is accurate. You need to become that person that has the capability to take action towards what you want. And all of these analogies break down eventually, right? Well, you could give me $1 million and I wouldn't have to be or do anything to have $1 million because you gave it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So there are limitations to that. But when you look at self-made people, which is not a real statement, we're all made by, the people around us.
Right.
But you recognize that for me to be able to do the things required to have the business of my dreams, I have to become the person that's capable of doing it. And it's different for everybody. Comparison is such a dangerous thing. If you can compare yourself to people in the same boat as you, you can be like, oh, I'm doing good enough. And so you don't want to compare to others. You just want to take stock of yourself and go, this is me and this is where I'm at. And I'm being honest about it. And I'm going to start observing what can be different. And we've seen a lot of owners that are either, they might excel in sales, they might excel in marketing, they might excel in operations. There's something there. And they need to start going, I hate running sales meetings. Why do I keep trying to run a sales meeting? And why am I upset that my sales isn't doing what it's supposed to be? Let's back up. Let's just acknowledge who we are. And some of us that are highly motivated, we can become kind of a jack of all trades. We can do all of it well enough to maybe make to the next level. But no, we want to find people that love sales meetings. We want to hire those people to do that for us and get out of the way.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing too, like the self-evaluation process. There are some people that there's a tipping point on either side of that equation, I think, right? There are very few people I have found that are really, really good at that. And I wouldn't even put myself in that equation because I think I tip probably too far to the negative side of it, right? Because I think you have some people that are not critical enough of themselves. They think too highly of themselves in some areas, and they avoid areas that they're not good at. And then you have the other people that are way too critical of themselves, right? That bell curve, so to speak, of the self-evaluation. When you're coaching people, is that, and this is something we haven't even talked about, so I don't know, is that something that you work with people on? Is there a process of like developing that self-evaluation process for a person internally that somebody could work on?
Yeah, I use quite a few different tools. And a lot of businesses do too. I know a lot of businesses will use like the DISC profile to assess if somebody might be a good sales candidate or not. My favorite ones are the Enneagram and Strengths Finders. The Enneagram is kind of the core of how you view the world. It's like the foundation. There's 9 of them. Takes a while to do some self-reflection and figure out kind of that core or initial response to life. And all of these things, if you use them to put yourself in a box, they're dangerous. Well, I'm just this, right? It's this, like I'm just a Scorpio, so you can deal with it. It's like, no, we want to grow past that.
Right.
And so Enneagram is a fantastic tool to acknowledge the starting point, and it is the layer behind. It's like the thought before the thought. It's the deepest assessment that I've ever used. I'm a huge fan. Some people aren't a fan of it, and then I love Strengths Finders because there's 34 of them, and you can pay for the top 5, I think, but don't pay for all 34, and read all 34. And Strengths Finders is done so well that they call all of them strengths. But the bottom ones are clearly not strengths, they're weaknesses.
Right.
But I love the framing of it. They say, no, that's just a less developed strength.
Mm-hmm.
And so you already have a positive spin on, this is me, and there's layers of me, I'm complicated. But what I love so much about Strengths Finders is once I help them start getting a language for themselves, so that they can communicate to others. And I think that owners have a hard time saying, I'm not good at that. Can you do it for me? Owners think that they're supposed to be good at every aspect of the business. And And when you have some awareness and some tools to put in front of you to say, I'm not good at that. I had you take this assessment. You're good at it. We like to do the things we're good at. And if you can find somebody that's good at what you aren't good at, what you think is work, they find joy in.
Right.
You're asking them to do the thing that they're just naturally good at. It's like, hey, Matt, do you want to win today? And you're like, I do, All right, go do that.
Right.
I also do some just self-reflective exercises where I let them use their own words. You tell me who you are. What is the language you use? And I'm not sure if you and I have talked about the why shovel before on the show. But one of my clients will be like, well, I'm a procrastinator, and these statements aren't good or bad. They just are. Let's just acknowledge them. They exist. Let's not call procrastination bad. Sometimes procrastination is actually wisdom. You don't want to act quickly. You don't want to make a hasty decision. You want to let it sit in your brain, and you want to process the various outcomes. And so what if it's actually a strength? What if you make decisions slower, but for, a better decision is made?
For the record, if you're a potential home remodeling customer, ignore that last statement.
Yes, right. That's good. There's a caveat there.
Right. That was not meant for you.
The time is now. Take action now.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then I jump in and I say, why is that? And well, I this and this and this, and well, why is that? Well, this and this and this, and why is that? And that why shovel digs a hole down to, maybe the story that they're telling themselves. And so you dig down deep enough and you go, oh, I found it. Now I can look at it. I can observe it. I have a silly story about myself, and I've always struggled with the weight. The weight goes up, the weight goes down, the weight goes up, the weight goes down. And I don't do yo-yo diets or anything, but I kind of have a limit where eventually the jeans are a little too tight on the waist. I'm like, all right, it's time to do something. I'll drop some weight. Never been able to keep it off. It just comes back on slowly. And I was meeting with my coach, and he started questioning it, and it got real awkward and really quiet. And he asked why a couple of times. And finally I was like, aha, when I was a kid, everybody, my parents, friends, family would say, you're just like your dad. Well, my dad is like 300 pounds. And he's got, he's diabetic at this point, and not the epitome of health and fitness. And I noticed that when I was in one of those cycles of putting weight on, I was like, why am I doing this? And I actually heard the voice in my head say, who are you kidding? You're just like your dad. And I was like, oh my goodness. I had to dig down to, there was a story being told that prevented me from being who I wanted to be that was tied to childhood.
Yeah.
And everybody that said that of me meant the best. My dad is an incredible man. He's very funny. He's quirky. He's incredibly talented. He's built homes. I tell the story, my mom blew the engine up in our Suburban on a Friday. My dad pulled the Suburban into the shop, tore the engine apart, fixed the engine, and she drove it on Monday.
Wow. Yeah.
Like that's my dad. He could just fix anything, and he could just learn. But my brain, for whatever reason, associated you're just like your dad in appearance.
Yeah.
And so those are things that, they're kind of the woo-woo stuff that business owners tend to not really go in that direction. We like to be action-oriented, not procrastinators, and we like to just get stuff done. And it's like, yeah, but if you have a mindset that's buried deep enough that you don't understand why you do this thing, it is well worth taking the time to go, I'm stuck and I have to fix this because it's on me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not to make it a whole episode about, our childhood, issue, but, I working on my weight as well too. And I was always told as a young, wow, he's so, he's big kid, huge, big kid. And it was always a compliment. Right. And, look at how much he can eat, kind of thing was always a thing. And that's same thing. I've had that like realization of like, wow, that's the mindset that I have. I'm supposed to eat this much to like maintain my personality, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
and it's interesting, right? It's you mentioned it in there about the conversations that are had influence who you are and how you act, right? And I know in your coaching, and mine as well too, and my coaching and conversations that I'll have with reps or owners or managers, one of the questions I will ask them is who is in your network, right? Who do you network with? There are two things that I am. Well, I should say there's one thing that I'm shocked about relatively frequently when I get the answer of like, well, not really anybody. Okay, then my next question is, do you really want to get better? Right? Because if you're not reaching out to other people who are doing this well to try to get understandings and best practices, then like you're not really working to get better. Yeah, I appreciate that you're investing money with me, but I'm one opinion. I'm one voice. That and I have good opinions and good voices, but I don't know all of the things and all of the answers. I have some good ideas and good answers, but not all of them. There are other people out there that are doing some other things that are really great as well too, and you should cast a wide net, right? And I can bounce ideas with you as well too. So that's one that always startles me. The other one though that is usually discovered, and I know you get this as well too, is when we find the guy that's stuck or the person that's stuck. When we keep hitting that roadblock and like, well, I can't, or well, this is the reason, or my market's different, I will go back to that question and I'll ask, let's get them on the phone, or why don't we bring them in? Let's have a group conversation. And I'm never surprised because the conversation is a woe is me conversation and is negative, right? And it is amazing to me how universal that mindset community gathering is, I guess would be the right way to say it. Negative loves negative, positive loves positive, hungry loves hungry. Like they just gather together like instantly. When I was running sales teams and a guy was struggling, the very first question I would ask is, who are you talking to? And I would go, wait, before you answer, can I guess? And they would go, what? Like, can I guess? I'm going to name 4 names. If I get 2 of the 4 right, you buy me lunch. And they would go, okay. And I would go, boom, boom, boom. And you nailed 3 of the 3 people I talked to. I'm like, yep. You want to know how I picked them? And they would go, sure. I was like, they're at the bottom of the board with you. And I bet you guys talk about how bad the leads are, where you're running, the bad thing that you ran into last night, blah, blah, blah. Does every call start with, I got sent to here and here. What's going on with X, Y, or Z? Or this, that, or the other. He was like, yeah. I was like, stop calling those people.
Yep. Yeah.
Here are the 3 names you should call. They're up here on the board. And guess what? They're running the same leads, qualified by the same people, with the same marketing, with the same price list. Call the people that are being successful. That's where you want to be. Call them. And I bet their conversation starts with, guess what I just did?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And all of a sudden the mindset changes. But it's weird. Misery loves company. Like, stop talking to those people. It's wild to me. And it just, and it's weird. I know you got 37 kids or however many it is at this point, right? But as parents, we teach our kids this, right? Surround yourself with the people that you want to be, and you will be that person, or the person that you want to be, and you will be that person. And we fight like tooth and nail. We try to not like meddle in their lives and like let them, experience their experiences. But we all cringe when they bring that person around that we go, man, this could be a bad situation, because we know it could have that negative influence on them. And we try to coach them out of it. But then we like pretend like that doesn't carry on in adulthood for some reason, which is just bananas. It's bananas that we think that all of a sudden as adults, like we change. We're all still big, dumb animals. it doesn't change from when we're 6 to when we're, 56.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And we talked about that, they, psychologists have determined that you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
mm-hmm.
And there's some caveats to that, like everything, but you look at it and you go, who do I associate with, and how did I pick them? I have, the backdrop here is different. I'm actually in Montana right now, where I grew up, and I have a friend in my hometown, Havre, Montana, on Highway 2 up near Canada, and we went to college together, and he moved back west to Montana, and I stayed in Minnesota. And when he moved, it was around the time that I was getting into coaching and starting to do some more risky things as far as entrepreneurial goes. And he's still one of my closest best friends. But all he ever did was say, "You're good enough just the way you are," and very affirming, right? Feels good. He always made me feel good. And I realized that him choosing to move back west was a huge blessing. I mean, shoot, we hugged and cried when he moved away. And at the same time, I was like, I'm so thankful that he moved away, because I was going to have to start distancing myself from him.
Yeah.
Because I need to find people that challenged me and made me feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to find people that would call me out on, why are you staying comfortable?
Yeah.
Why are you okay with this life? Like, your potential is so much greater than what you're doing. And the two guys I hang out with the most, we do a lot of things together. They both know it. And I've said it about them. I'm like, I kind of picked you guys because you guys are not the friends I would have chosen. And they're very different than me. I am the lower energy, quieter personality.
Yeah.
These guys are not. They just go, go, go. And I can't keep up with them.
Yeah.
But if I keep up a little bit more, then I'm doing way more than I was doing previously.
It's a real nice way of saying I love you, but I don't like you.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully they're not listening to this. Yeah. No. I like them too. They're good guys, but
I know.
But I deliberately there are friendships that we have, and this is very true in business. Oftentimes, our biggest naysayers will be our closest friends and family when we step out on a limb and say, I'm going to start a business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My grandpa came from the generation where you could put 25 years in with one company, 25 years, and then they give you a gold watch at the end and a pension and health insurance, and you could retire at like 55.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to work until I die. Partially because I enjoy what I do, and I'm just going to keep doing it. But also, we don't have organizations out there like we did, 50, 60 years ago.
No.
And so my dad and my grandpa told me, find a good job and stay there forever.
Yep.
And I look back at it and I go, it did work 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't now. And so being careful about the friends that you have, and if you are pursuing growth and personal development, there's people you'll outgrow.
So and maybe this is a good story to, or thought to tie a bow on our conversation today, and it's a motto in my house. My wife would maybe argue with me on this point that I'm going to make. In my coaching days, I used to start. I used to start every season with, our first practice. We would sit down, we would go over, expectations for the year and rules and, those kinds of things. And I would finish the conversation with, okay, guys, the last rule is that there is only one curse word, one bad word that we're not allowed to say on my field. Right. And I now have this in my house, although my wife will adamantly disagree with me. That there are many other curse words we're not allowed to say in our house.
With a 7-year-old. Fair enough.
Right. And I get in trouble every time I say one around my 7-year-old. So these, again, now I'm coaching high school, college guys, and I work with some pro guys too, out in my time. I was fortunate enough to do that. But the high school guys were always fun because I would start and go, so what do you think it is? And they would all sit there and they'd be like, they'd start with like, darn. And like, nope, that's not it. And it would like progressively, like somebody would get the nerve and be like, shit. I'm like, what was that? And they're like, shit. I'm like, nope, not shit. Right. Like, fuck. Like, no, it's not fucking. Now they're having fun and they're yelling curse words at the field. And like, I can see the moms just in the background going like, oh no, kind of thing. And they would never get it. Right. And I'd be like, all right, enough, calm down, you animals. Right. And like, the word is uncomfortable. The second you tell me that this is uncomfortable, I'm going to send you home.
Yep.
Because I'm going to make you very uncomfortable. Every time we step out on the field and practice, the whole goal for the 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is that we are working out is to be as uncomfortable as humanly possible. Because if we're comfortable for an hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours, we're not getting better. If your goal is to come out and do the things that you're comfortable with, don't show up. This is not for you. I am not the coach for you. This is not the team for you. This is not the game for you. Our job and our goal is to get better every single second of the day we're here. Our goal is that we're better a little bit today than we were yesterday. So uncomfortable. This is the last time we will all say it or think it or hear it and on this field, period. Are we in agreement? Yes, coach. Great.
Yeah.
That's it. So we embrace discomfort from here on out. And if you're not doing that in your world, then you are dying. Embrace discomfort every single day. That means you're getting better, period.
Yep. Yeah. That's good. Good thing to end it on. Yeah, definitely.
Man.
And as always, if any of our listeners have parts of this that really resonated with them and want to talk to us more about it, reach out. We'll have that conversation for sure.
Always a pleasure, sir. Until next time.
Yeah, absolutely.